This variable checker spot is particularly satisfying for me to see on the California blackberry, because about 2 weeks ago this was covered in Cape ivy and there wasn't any sort of positive interaction with other organisms taking place. I love seeing organisms taking advantage of something that I helped bring about. Over here where I haven't done work, we've got these non-native plants. We've got wild radish, Cape ivy. I don't see the variable checker spots. Variable checker spot on bee plant. Variable checker spot on the Greenspot Nightshade. On Coyote Brush. Variable checker spot on an older stalk of bee plant. There we go. This is the younger bee plant. It's got the variable checker spot caterpillars all over it. On the other hand, these old stalks have it all over it as well. This is the type of thing where I ask the question and go and try and learn about it once I put the video down. This doesn't have anything to do with what I was talking about. I just thought it was a kind of a cool shot of a cool stage of the blackberry. Here we have the variable checker spot on Plantain. There's one. All right, there you are. There's one on Lupin. The point I'm getting at is I'm seeing the variable checker spot on various native plants. I'm not seeing it on the Cape ivy. This is an example of relationships that develop over time. It's an example of damage that can be done when you suddenly introduce something that doesn't have a relationship with the land, the plants, the animals. This one is, oh, it's right next to California manroot. It's not actually on it. And I can't resist talking about leaf blowing and other forms of deathscaping, because when these guys are done feeding, they just allow themselves to fall to the ground and they get covered in various forms of already shed plant material. And then we have butterflies that come from that. If we as humans are busy always removing plant litter, leaves, etc. from the ground, we are bringing to an end the next stage, the butterfly stage. Maybe you don't care about this particular species, but the same is true for many species, including but not limited to bees, whom people are like, oh my God, we're going to lose our pollinators. And then you turn around and leaf blow away everything that the bees need. And here we have the same species on monkey flower. I'm making another pass by the Cape ivy today because I'm sure some people are accusing me of cherry picking which plants I show. So I'm checking again to see if there's any of the variable checker spot caterpillars over here. I don't see any, but you know what I do see? I see a tiny bit of bee plant coming through. And guess what? There's a variable checker spot feeding upon what nature intended it to feed upon. Okay, so what is the summary of this footage and what did I go and learn about afterward? My main takeaway was that native insects aren't interacting with the non-native invasive Cape ivy. Now, if the area is covered in Cape ivy, instead of the plants that your native insects or native birds or whichever organisms we want to talk about, then we've limited, if not even taken away, what those organisms can do. Some of them are very specific. Some of them will only eat a certain plant, will only cocoon on a certain plant, will only reproduce on a certain plant. I mean, don't ask me to explain how those levels of intricacy formed over time. All you really need to know is that it took place. It's real. And we throw a wrench in all those intricacies, especially when we dismiss whether or not a non-native species has a detrimental impact. Coming into this, I was under the impression that the preferred and primary plant food for the variable checkerspot was bee plant, otherwise known as California figwort. Turns out the preferred plant is actually sticky monkey flower. I only got one shot of the caterpillar on sticky monkey flower. I then learned that the number 2 option for the variable checkerspot is indeed the California figwort. I just mentioned plants in order of preference, but obviously this native insect is willing to feed upon a variety of native plants, regardless of the preference. You might find more of them on certain plants, and they may desire certain plants more than other plants, but they're able to make use of the other plants when the other plants are available, except, of course, in the case of the plants that aren't supposed to be there at all. The Cape ivy is all over the place. We're talking about a pretty large amount of potential habitat that I could have found these caterpillars, and they weren't there. That's a pretty strong indicator that this is a negative impact on the habitat, at least in the case of this specific insect. But I've seen other indicators. I've seen bird activity increase in the area where I have freed up the plants that were buried underneath the Cape ivy. Even if the branches are still dead or dead looking right now, I still see more bird activity there than I saw before. I also asked the question while filming, why am I finding so many caterpillars on this particularly old plant? And it turns out that they actually prefer older foliage to newer foliage. Now, I don't know if older means this old, but it's another topic to explore. And finally, since this is an ecology channel and we're talking about ecology, the relationship between various plants and animals within a habitat, what other purpose do you think that these caterpillars provide besides eating and turning into butterflies? That's right, they provide food for the birds there. And when you have a healthy system, that means you will have enough plants to survive feeding caterpillars, and you will have enough caterpillars to go on to become butterflies to survive feeding birds. I'm Skyler Thomas, the Angry Ecologist. Please let me know if you enjoyed this video and if you learned anything.